If you're a part of my Patreon crew, we watched this Pat Surtain film session a couple months ago in November, I believe. So if you want the early film sessions, you want the longer film sessions, you want more film sessions, go over to my Patreon, patreon.com/vochlombardi. That link is in the description. As far as the YouTube crowd, I mean, you know, sorry for the wait, no ceilings. But anyway, today we talking about Pat Surtain, cornerback from Alabama. I'm going to indicate where he is, and we're just going to kind of talk about this play as I introduce some themes that we're going to be bringing up throughout this film session here. Two themes is, or for Pat Surtain, right, is comfort and feel, right? Some cornerbacks read and react, other cornerbacks feel and anticipate. The good cornerbacks feel and anticipate. Because the natural definition of react is you kind of got to do something first, then I'll do it, you know, and that may naturally put you one step behind. But if you feel and anticipating, it'll put us one step above. We're in the positives then. And, you know, you need as many positive steps as you can when we're guarding NFL receivers. Now, how does Pat Surtain find his comfort? Through his feel. And he finds his feel through his hands, right? Let's just run this play a little bit. Right there. Every single Pat Surtain play that you're going to run across, whether it's film with me or whether you're doing your own research, because I highly encourage you to do your own research, he's going to use his hands at some point. If you hate J.C. Horn because he's handsy, but you love Pat Surtain, then you're phony. Pat used his hands on every single play, but he does that to gauge a feel of where he's going. Let's talk pre-snap a little bit and some nuance from him. So Pat Surtain is going to line up at a sort of outside alignment. I'm fine with that because if the receiver wants to go inside, then we got a little bit of help in there from these guys. But if we're going to go outside, we're putting ourselves in a good position to deal with that. And you can always tell when Pat gets comfortable because he opens up his hips when he's feeling where you're going. He's opening up his hips to run as soon as possible. We're gonna talk about that later. He needs to be, if you're running, he needs to be running as soon as possible with you. A quick note about positioning that I really liked here is that if the receiver wanted to go back inside, he would have to go through Pat. Pretty good move from Pat there. But Pat's using his hands right now. He feels where the receiver is going. He's comfortable with the decision that he's made. He's gonna turn his hips. Receiver's going to get his head around. Pat's going to get his around also. Pat is going to play the ball, knock that thing out the air. Good to go. If he's comfortable, we straight up and down. Cool. If Pat is going up against one of these cornerbacks that you know, these super route runny dudes, these guys that, you know, I'm gonna run a slant but I'm gonna set it up with a fade, you know, you may find Pat a little uncomfortable there, and I'm gonna show you plays where Pat Surtain looks uncomfortable. Let's take a look at Pat Surtain on this play. He's up top. How do I know he's not reading and reacting on this play? Because he ain't even backpedaling. Like, the hands are gonna take him everywhere he needs to go, right? If the receiver's gonna turn, I'm gonna turn with him. Player hands here, right? Give me a good feel on where we're going, a good identification. We're in man coverage, so we want the receiver to go outside anyway because the sideline is going to be our help in these man coverage situations. But hey, man, you want to cut back inside? I'm going to use my hands. I'm going to feel you going back inside. We're going to run together, make a play on the football. Pat feels good when he knows all the variables of the situation, and that comes down to him just playing corner, just having nuance. And I know some other cornerbacks in this class or whatever that got high potential. That's a really high ceiling guy. And people may say, yo, Voch, why don't you like this corner so much? You know, playing football just makes you better. Pat Surtain has played a lot of football. A lot of reps make you better. I just can't be banking on people all the time that haven't played a whole bunch of reps, especially over dudes that have played a whole bunch of reps. But we'll talk about that later. Oh, this cat ain't gonna give me no problems. He's not a super nuanced route runner here. I'm just gonna get some hands. We gonna feel. And you know what? If I feel you stop running, I'm gonna stop running too, player. If I feel you stopping and turning looking for the football, my hands will tell me everything. Now, everybody can't use techniques like that because everybody, they don't trust their athleticism sometimes. They don't trust their hands. They don't trust their ability to read and identify formations. They don't trust their film study ability. You know, I can just tell by watching some of these plays that Pat Surtain watches a lot of film. He understands his opponent, and he knows, you know, that he can get away with some things that he can or cannot with some other opponents. We really gonna get into that in the next 5 to 6 plays or so, but another good play from Pat Surtain here, right? So now let me ask y'all this question. We got Pat Surtain up top, lineup against Kyle Pitts. Does he look comfortable on this rep? Just check him and see. Does he look comfortable here? Just check him and see. does he look comfortable here? We didn't see hands from him, so maybe didn't get a good feel for where Pitts was going. And the first play that I show you, that we're not getting hands involved, that's the most separation we've seen, Pat Surtain kind of give up or whatnot, you know what I mean? And that's why I think that this theory kind of checks out. Now, this is just me theorizing, right? I could be an idiot, I could know nothing about what I'm talking about, but I think as long as hands are involved, we're good. If hands are not involved, then Pat doesn't really have the best idea of where guys are going sometimes. Now, is that a bad thing? I mean, nah, not really. Just make sure you get your hands on people. Like that's an easy fix. But I just noticed there was a handful of times Pat didn't get his hands on people and they just kind of got away from him. That's a very light example, but that's an idea of what uncomfortable looks like to me. Let me ask y'all this. Let's take a look at Pat Surtain down bottom. Does he look comfortable on this play? Let's just kind of run it and just see what we're looking like here. Does he look comfortable there? Like he has control of what's going on here? Now, why is that? Is it because of the opponent? Is it because something that happened earlier in the game? Is it maybe I'm actually giving you a fake outside to get my inside release? You know what I mean? Like what's with the extra grabby there? That's different than feel. This is more of I'm reacting to you now. And when I'm reacting to you, I'm obviously getting a little more grabby. Maybe because I didn't get my hands on you early as I wanted to. I don't know, possibly. We'll cross the road whenever we get there. I would love to know y'all's theories on it. Take a look at this play. We got Pat Surtain down bottom, and when people give knocks to Pat Surtain, they'll say it's because of his long speed. They don't think that he has the deep speed to deal with guys, and I think that's fair. But I think it's more to it. I just don't think that he's comfortable playing deep when he hasn't established his feel already, right? Because first of all, were there hands involved here? No hands here. This is just kind of a turn and run situation. So his hands make him early, right? If I'm Pat Surtain and I'm using my hands and I anticipate where you're going, I'm one step ahead. If I'm Pat Surtain, I don't use my hands. It sounds like a nursery rhyme. If I'm Pat Surtain and I don't use my hands, then I'm reacting to where you're going, right? And if I got to react to you, you're going to get steps on me. You're already not athletically superior to a guy like if we're talking about Caleb Farley can read and react all day because he has the athleticism to do that, right? Pat Surtain doesn't have the top speed or the acceleration to deal with guys running deep like that. So we got to use his hands early. But if he don't, it's going to look a little weird for him. Now, Bo Nix, could you have put this ball a little more on the outside shoulder to help your receiver, Seth Williams, there with an easier catch? Yeah, Bo, you probably could have done a little better with that. But in the NFL, these throws are going to be in front and to the outside, and Pat Surtain is beat right there. In the NFL, that's beat right there. And Seth has to slow down a little bit, boom, boom, boom. But you just got to ask yourself, find more examples of this. Can you find more instances where Pat Surtain's kind of getting beat deep? 100%. Let me show you another one. And this play brought it full circle for me, right? This is where I put my comfort theory together. Let's watch it, then we'll come back and we'll talk about it together as a family, as a team. You know what I'm saying? Pat Surtain, in which he didn't get caught on, by the way, on this play or whatever, so let's just say that. But this play made me go, oh, so Pat wants to get hands on you early so he doesn't have to deal with your speed. You see what I'm saying? Take a look at Pat right here, right? Let's just take, like, it's almost lunging at this point. It's almost like he desperately lunged to try to get his hands on this receiver here, right? This looked like Kendrick Rogers. Oh boy. Yeah, he lunged to try to get to the position here, right? And to be fair, if you're in the National Football League, you don't want Pat Surtain to get hands on your receivers. This damn stack look is a pretty smart one. But if you're Pat Surtain, you got hands trying to lunge here, but you really didn't get a feel for the route. So you just kind of had to turn and run. And that bought you some separation, right? Now, Kellen Mond is terrible, and our receiver had to slow down and come back to the football here. But in the National Football League, the right quarterback and receiver pair smokes this right here. This right here gets smoked in the National Football League every single time, all day, every day, Mr. Wolf. So yeah, man, you could just tell when Pat gets uncomfortable, bro. He got to establish those hands. He's got to establish those hands. Like I said earlier, can you coach him into just using his hands all the time? Yeah, sure. But I think it's going to be matchup dependent. Now, what happened here? Well, let's just take a look at the play and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. But you notice right off the back here, right? Right off the bat. And Pat ain't had to grab my guy like that. But did we get hands in the early portions of the route? No, we did not. Did that result in this receiver just kind of running past Pat Surtain a little bit? Yes, it did. Did Pat kind of get nervous and get grabby at the end? 100%, Mr. Wolf. You know what I'm saying? If this was a receiver quarterback tandem in the National Football League, is this a connection and touchdown? Yeah, possibly. Hey, man. This is a part of the film session where we have a conversation, by the way. If you only came for the film, I appreciate y'all for being here. Now we're just going to talk a little bit. Is Pat Surtain a bad football player? No, absolutely not. Is Pat Surtain a first-round pick? Yes, 100%, Mr. Wolf. He is a first-round pick. He's that good. And it sounds like I'm nitpicking on Pat Surtain, but I think that when we do draft evaluations, we have to nitpick on Pat Surtain. I think if this was a hype party participation award, everybody says something good about you type of film session, then every team would feel like, oh, I can get Pat Surtain, I can use him on my team and we'll be fine. What if you're let's just kind of talk about this, right? If you're a cover 2 man team and Pat Surtain always got help behind him, then you'll be fine. If you're a cover, like a cover 2 zone team for the most part, and Pat just kind of get to jam people at the line of scrimmage and just run the flats, you'll be good to go. You'll be just fine. If Pat is a cover 3 guy, right? I can see Pat playing some cover 3. He's long enough. He could just kind of turn and run back his back to the sideline and just do some deep third stuff. Like, can Pat do things like that? 100%, man. Pat can absolutely do things like that. But what if you're a team that blitzes a lot and Pat doesn't get any safety help behind him? Do you think that you could just put Pat Surtain in a cover 0 situation where he's in man coverage with no help behind him? You bet not. Or you think he's in a situation where if you go to a cover 1 team and Pat, and Pat is just responsible for just some island, and if he gets help, then he gets it. If he doesn't, he'll be fine. I don't think you'll play Pat in that scenario in particular. Now, if you want to put some nuance on this thing, let's be nuanced, because part of evaluating and drafting and figuring out where players fit is, situational, right? Scenarios. If I had Pat Surtain and his only job was to go out and cover the wide receiver 2 every single game, Pat Surtain will be fine. He'll be fine. The example I use that is if you're playing against the Cowboys, don't put him on Amari Cooper. Let him cover Michael Gallup all day. He'll be good. If you're playing against the Eagles, he'll be fine against Fulgham and Alshon Jeffrey. Don't let him chase around Jalen Reagor. You see what I'm saying? In the National Football League, there's this new thing that's happening where these damn slot receivers are getting big as hell. So if you're playing against the Arizona Cardinals, he'll probably be fine against Nuke Hopkins. I wouldn't put him against Christian Kirk, but if he's a guy where you got like a big slot receiver, kind of like Fitzgerald was last year with the Cardinals or whatever, sure, put him on the bigger, slower slot receiver and you'll be fine. There's another role I like for these young corners that can kind of run around a little bit, that they got some pretty good size on them, that are pretty physical. If you just want to chase around tight ends for a year, let him be your tight end buster for a year until he gets acclimated to the National Football League speed. There's nothing wrong with putting a player where he fits best. If you think something's wrong with that, then you draft him with your ego. And that's where the problem comes in. Think about Minkah Fitzpatrick, right? In which they're very similar players, actually. When Minkah Fitzpatrick came out, everybody was talking about Minkah as an outside corner. So they drafted him early as an outside corner. But in my mind, I'm like, yo, that dude is better in the nickel and playing safety. Like that dude roaming around at safety and being a big nickel corner, Minka Fitzpatrick is much better. And when you draft him to play outside corner, he looks a little weird out there. But if you put him where he fits best, then he kind of lead the league in interceptions for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about putting somebody where they're best at. I don't think there's any shame in putting Pat Surtain at nickel or just making him chase around tight ends. I mean, hell, he chased around Kyle Pitts in the Florida film. So, you know, maybe that's very telling about what you should do with him moving forward. But you also have to draft like that accordingly. So let me just give y'all some insights here. This film is for everybody, for every team that's watching right now. But I'm a Cowboys fan, right? And this will open my eyes about Pat Surtain. When the Cowboys were losing enough games to where they was having a top 5 pick, they was talking about Patrick Surtain as being one of those possible guys. Cowboys won some games. We ended up 10th overall. They're still talking about Pat Surtain as being one of those guys that you know you could draft. If you find some dude covering a team that's drafting in the 13 somewhere, 13, 14, they're talking about drafting Patrick Surtain. You know what I'm saying? So if you're a dude that can go anywhere between 4 and 13, then there needs to be a little more research done here. And if he's a guy that's going to cover up wide receiver twos, that's going to chase around tight ends, that's going to play nickel, he's going to be a good starter for you. I just wouldn't want him covering Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't want him covering Amari Cooper. I wouldn't want him covering Julio Jones or anybody that can move around and run routes really, really good. Stephon Diggs, don't even think about it. If it's a guy like that, Pat Surtain could play 65 snaps a game for you. But if he can't cover them dudes, you shouldn't feel great about drafting him 6th overall. That's just my opinion. 5th, and that's if you're an Eagles fan, listen or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You probably shouldn't go that route. You probably shouldn't go that route. But if you draft them and you have a plan and you're very honest with your assessment of them, then fine. Where do I rank them? I reserve the right to change my mind about, you know, rankings because we have until April to figure this out. And I reserve the right to change my mind. And nothing's official until I drop my ranking videos pre-draft. Like early April, right before the draft, I drop ranking videos. But he's like my cornerback 3 or 4 right now. And some people telling me that when I watch the Georgia kids, I may like them a little more. I don't know. We'll see. But as of now, he's my cornerback 4 or 5-ish. I don't know. That's not an indictment on him. That's not saying that he's a terrible player. It's just that if you keep watching film, you're gonna run into guys that don't have problems with deep speed. You're gonna have guys that you watch and be like, oh, I feel really good if he had to cover Julio Jones or if he had to cover Stephon Diggs. I feel fine if those guys had to run around with one of these kind of guys, you know? Patches may not be one of those guys. But anyway, thank y'all for hanging around for the conversation portion. Thank y'all for, you know, tuning in, watching film and all that. Follow me on Twitter, VOCHLOMBARDI. Like I said, if you want the full-blown Patreon film sessions, the ones that came out a couple months ago, there's a lot more film over there, about 60 guys we've watched so far. Then that's patreon.com/vochlombardi. Go over there, check out some stuff. Yeah, and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I drop these film sessions in the middle of the week. All right, appreciate y'all, man. Peace.